We never forget when we have a Sunday. Okay, I guess that was my cue. That was my cue. It sounded somewhat like a guy I know by the name of Traci Lithcutt. That's right, I'm here today. I'm here on Boston Praise Radio and Television, the only black-owned and licensed radio and television program in New England, and we're very proud of that. Yes, it is a beautiful day today. I'm here by myself, solo, single, doing my own thing, and I'm going to talk about just kind of jump around a smorgasbord, eclectic type of conversation today, where we just talk about a number of different things that I think are going on in society. I'm actually going to talk to you also about some things that I'm going through, that I'm sure a number of folks have gone through in their lives and they're dealing with at this present day. It was something. I'm looking at myself in the monitor as Ronnie Bell just stepped in the way. I'm looking in the monitor in the other room, and I'm looking at my afro, and I'm realizing how much I really love having an afro. I love growing my hair, and this all came about because of the COVID, but it's just a whole new different look for me, and people happen to notice that as well. Folks, feel free to call in to talk about anything that you may want to talk about today. We can be reached at 617-282-0685 or 617-282-7794, and one more number, 617-265-2679. We don't have to talk about what I'm talking about. We could talk about some things that you like to talk about as well. But so let's get started. I'm looking at the news on a daily basis, of course, and one of my best friends, I'm going to talk about him in a little while, has me watching CNN. But I'm watching the news. I come from the gym. I go at first thing in the morning, and I'm watching this story that they're talking about the performer Adele. And they were talking about her, and I'm not really a major fan of hers, but I love the politics of what they was discussing regarding something that she had done. As we all know, this would have been the Caribbean weekend for our parade, the Caribbean parade this weekend. We used to call it back in the day the Jamaican parade. That's all the only country we identified with years ago, the Jamaican parade. But this is, it's a bunch of Caribbean countries that come together to hold this celebration. I know my daughter and her friends are very disappointed that I don't even know if they ever actually make it to the parade, because they go to that event, Jubei, I guess they call it, and people just party, have a good time, and it would be wonderful if we could do it without any violence that occurred in our community, but there's always a few knuckleheads that want to mess up a good time for everyone else. But this performer Adele, I saw her on TV, and I want to say she may have been in London somewhere, but apparently she grew up in a very diverse neighborhood with black folks, Latino, and in that type of environment. They had her. They showed a picture of her dressed, kind of like in this Caribbean regalia. The way her hair was braided, the makeup she had on, and I heard this particular. I think I want to say this woman may be a professor, but she criticized Adele for dressing up and kind of making it look like that what she was wearing was a costume. When I saw this and I heard it, I said to myself, you got to be kidding me. You really have to be kidding me. Now we're upset that this woman decided to dress in a way that supports, endorses, gives light to the Caribbean festival. For me, I said to myself, wow, things have changed. I remember when I was growing up in the 70s, there was none of that. I remember somebody did this study, and they had black children with white Barbie dolls and black Barbie dolls, and the black children in the study had to pick which one that they identified with, and the black children were picking the white dolls. And we talked about how the media talks about what the white community does in one way, and how black folks want to emulate what they do and want to we feel as though it's to fit into society, we have to fit into someone else's culture. I know for myself, from what I see what Adele was wearing, I see that on the flip side. When I start seeing and looking at it or talking about different things that happen in our community, to me, I felt proud of Adele. Even though I'm not Caribbean, I said, man, she's taking on the black side. And from what I understand, she grew up around black folks. it makes me think about, something like rap music. Rap music definitely is, when you talk culturally and politically, it's basically black folks, that started this type of genre of music. And there's a pioneer in the studio today by the name of Larry Wu, who actually helped develop that back in the 70s. But things have changed. I'm starting to watch. I didn't even know that white women wore hair extensions. That surprised me. A number of things that black folks are doing, I see white folks trying to emulate what we do. I see that as a good thing. I don't understand why we're criticizing Adele for what she wore. I kind of like it. If white folks can wear afros like I do, I'd support that too. I think it's times have changed where people cross over now. We're doing different things with it, and we're doing it in different ways. And I think we have to support that and stop being so tight in the booty. People are that's not the word I want to use, but I'm on the air, so I have to. We have to stop being so tight. I just couldn't understand what the criticism of this woman could be, considering she was supporting a black event. When you talk about Caribbeans, that's pretty much it. She was criticized by actor Chet Hanks. Yeah, I said to myself, if you haven't identified with the black culture, if you haven't been around it, maybe you don't understand it. To me, it seems as though, I know growing up in the South End, I grew up around a lot of white folks. I'm thinking about one gentleman from the MBTA police station, MBTA police, Rich Sullivan, grew up around black folks. I believe he has a black girlfriend. That doesn't mean much, but it just shows that folks have grown up and learned to adapt much sooner than other folks might think. And in my community, we did everything together. The Irish, the Jewish community, the blacks, the Latinos, the Asians, and Armenians. We had a very strong Armenian population in the South End. We all got along well. We all wore the same thing. We all talked the same ways. We had our own little things that went on, but we have to stop pushing back at folks that support our agenda. I know some of our own folks that don't support our agenda. We have to stop pushing back at the folks and stop being so sensitive about what everybody does. It's just ridiculous. One thing I wanted to talk about today too is something that's near and dear to my heart. I have a couple of friends right now that are suffering from cancer. One of my best friends is in a very, very tough situation, and we're going to be taking him off the ventilator today. One thing I want to say to folks, and my buddy went from 0 to 100 all within a 3-week period. I don't understand it. I'm a man of faith. I'm a man of God. I can't understand how this happened, where someone that I had planned on spending the next 10, 15, 20 years of my life doing things with possibly won't be there. And when I think about this, medically, we've been told there's nothing we can do for him. Nothing. But I also know, I live by faith. I need God to intervene now. I need people to pray for my boy. His initials are M.E. I don't want to put his name out there, but I need folks to pray for him to help us get through understanding what he's going through. And I want to encourage folks that are out there, spend time with your family. Spend time with your friends. Do not take it for granted. You just never know. I had another good friend that died in a fire this year. Did he know that the next day he would not be around to hug folks, to talk to folks, to apologize, to eat good foods, to travel? No, he would not have known that. No one knows that, and it just happens. So we have to appreciate the time that God gives us. We have to appreciate the people that are around us. And one of the things I said to myself, and I'm going to start at the top of the charts here, if I had a chance to meet God, and talk to him, what would I say? What would I say? What would I do? I know first thing I would be just amazed. I don't even know how to say. You can't say because you're not there. Just the glory, the admiration. What do you say to God if you had a chance to talk to him? I think I would stare for a while, and besides asking for another Super Bowl championship, or I'd have to ask something serious. I think my thing would be with God is, well, what would you want me to do? What do you want me to do with my life that will make you appreciate giving me life? What would you want me to do, God? And I think that, some of the things I think about in some of my actions years ago, I think about how I would perform in situations, and I very much so. If you did something to me, I felt like retaliation was just due cause. You're doing something to me, I have to do it to you. But now in my life, I think about, well, what would God want me to do in certain situations, which is a good way to live. And one of my good friends, like I said, he's suffering right now, and he doesn't have the biggest belief in God. But I'm in his room and I'm talking to him, and I'm trying to help him get through this process. Him and his family and his daughter, a 20-year-old girl. She's acting like she's a consummate adult. She's doing a wonderful job working throughout this process. But what would you want to say to God if you had the opportunity? What would you do? I mean, you couldn't just stand there and just stare, and I'm sure that would happen as well. But, I'd have a lot of things I would want to ask him. I would ask him, could I see certain people in my family that left this earth early? And when I think about this whole situation with my buddy and his question about talking to God, it makes me think about, I'm 58 years old at this point, and I'm like, I've been blessed. That I was going to say lucky, but there's no such thing as a God of good luck. I've been blessed to be here this long, and I think about some of my good friends that have been gone 20 and 30 years of their lives, that are no longer around. They're gone. They were gone at a very early age. Good people, some not so good. But I wonder what happened, or wonder if they had the opportunity to meet God. One of the most profound statements I heard about death, and I'm going to be honest, death scares me. I don't want anywhere near me. I'm not ready. I'm not ready for my friends to leave here. But one of the most profound statements I heard was by the running back from the Chicago Bears, Walter Payton. An announcer asked him, are you scared to die? This is when he had cancer. And he asked him, was he scared to die? And Walter Payton's response was, I don't know. I've never died before. I have no way of knowing what it's going to be like. And that just, wow, it threw a chill through my body, because there's so many things in life that you can experience. Some that you like and you'll say you'll do it again. Other things you'll say, no, I'll never try that again. But death, there are very few people that have come back from death. Death is final, and once it's on your doorstep, I'm sure you start to realize all of the things that haven't happened in your life, things that you wanted to do in life. But dying is serious, and for me, with my close friends that are going through this process right now, it makes me think in a much different way, and I want people to really appreciate life. I want you to appreciate life, and when I think about appreciating life, and I say to myself, well, what would I say to God? I also say to myself, what would I say to Jesus? What would I say? Of course, we want to say thank you for him giving his life for our lives to be here. But what would I say to Jesus? What would I want to say to him? What would be the questions that come up? What would be the conversation? Would I be able, one thing that we're all made in God's and Jesus' likeness. Can I be honest the way I normally am and have a general conversation the way me and my boys do, and have that conversation with Jesus? I'm not sure. And it's something as I said earlier, that you don't want to just stare and just gawk. And I'm sure that it would be an experience that you could never think about it. And I guess that's a good question for ministers and priests and pastors, and I'm sure that they would have a much different answer for that. But I say to myself, what would I say to Jesus? And it's crazy that I probably would have more questions for the third individual I'm thinking about, and that's Satan. What do you say to Satan? I guess all I can say to him is, what are you thinking? What are you doing? Why are you doing what you're doing in this world today? Why are you influencing people in this direction? What is going on? I'm telling you, this situation that I've gone through recently over the last 3 weeks has just made me put life in perspective. And oh yeah, I expect to be around a long time. I hope to be around a long time. I'm hoping that God blesses me, and I want to be like Peter Pan. I don't ever want to die. That's right. I want to stay around till I'm 275 years old. I don't care if I can't walk, as long as I can eat and have something to drink. I'm fine. And got cable. I need cable. But maybe that's what I asked Jesus. Can we get some more better programs on cable? But what do you say to these folks? What do you say to God? What do you say to Jesus? What do you say to Satan if you had the opportunity to meet them? And then what happens after death? You see it in the Bible, you hear people talk about it, but it really comes into form when you start thinking about yourself and you internalize and think about your closest friends. You just never know which direction it's going to go. So I just want to say to folks at this point, take life seriously. Do not play around with it. My recommendation is any bad feelings or relationships that you've had, figure out a way to deal with that. Figure out a way to fix it. Figure out a way to move life forward in a good way. There's nothing wrong, with living the right life, and when you're not living the right life, and some friends, that are going through some things have been that way, but they have always been good people. And it's very difficult to go through this situation, but I'm going to be there for my crew as much as I can, and we're going to all work through this together. But don't be ashamed. Men, get rid of that machismo attitude. You can say I love you to your boys. You can say I love you to your children, to your family. You should be doing this every day. Bring gifts home to your girlfriend or your wife. Bring her flowers. Do things for family members, especially, you read in the Bible, they talk about your mother and your father. Do right. I can't quote scripture, so I'm going to come up with my own here. The bottom line is do right by your parents. All right? Do right by your parents, and you would hope that your children do right by you as well. So I just wanted to have this part of this conversation in the opening part of this discussion because my buddy's illness has really put me in a different perspective, and I have a certain place in my heart for life and death now. It can happen at any time, and the fact that he did get 3 more weeks, and hopefully, like I said, we're going to take him off the ventilator today. I'm not counting him out. God, if I had a chance to talk to him right now and to meet him, I wouldn't ask for anything for myself. I'd ask him to save my boy. Give my boy another 10, 15 years, and I would be happy with that. And folks, we got to stop doing this one, too. I'm going to bring this up. I know some of us get out there. I've been in college, and you get out there, you start drinking, and you do all these things, and you feel like you're about to get sick, and then you want to pray. Oh, God, please, God, if I don't get sick, I swear I'll never do this again. I'll never do that again. No, this is not how we're utilizing God. All right? We got to be more sincere about what we're going to do and the reasons why we're going to do it in this world. All right? So I just had to bring that up. So let's move on and shift to something else that kind of relates to the adult thing. Should we embrace white folks that are trying to embrace us during this period in time? I don't get it, Once again, the civil rights movement, which was really about voting rights and about women, and that was a time when protests, and I'm going to throw that into the conversation too. Protests. What do you think about protests? Are all these protests doing any good for what we're trying to accomplish? But let's just jump back. White folks, yeah, we gotta have allies. We gotta have allies. There are good. We gotta stop this. Good white folks. There are more good white folks than there are bad. Come on, y'all. We got people out there that care about us. They're not doing it just because of what just recently happened. They just doing it because that's how they feel. And like I said, I feel a little privileged and lucky to be in that situation. And right now I'm working in the city government where I'm dealing with churches. And one of the churches that they talk about quite a bit is the Emmanuel Gospel Center. And they talked about the work that these folks did and let me be clear, white men and women that were Christians, what they did in the black community, in particular in the South End. Now, the thing that's so funny to hear this conversation is because I was one of those boys in the 70s. Myself, Thomas Carroll, Thomas Patterson, Ronald Patterson, LaDonna Dare, Andrew Woods, T-Cat, all of us, we were all, and you know what? How they got us engaged? They got us engaged through sports. Through sports. We had one of the best. Pop Warner is something good now, but years ago, oh my goodness, it was really competitive. And the Cathedral Warriors, that was our base. But we had this little center that was down in the South End. All it had was a ping pong table and a pool table, but all of us used to end up down there. And you know why? Do you know why we should go there? Because there's one white gentleman by the name of Pete Kispert. And I got to, and fellas, when you hear that name, you know what I'm talking about. Pete Kispert gave life to so many black males. And I'm going to be very specific to black males in this city and in this country. He laid a foundation for us that we will never forget. I'm going to expound a little bit on this. So pretty much all my buddies have all done well in life. You know, none of them are really, you know, a couple have went to jail for a short period of time, but pretty much 95% of the fellas are all on track, which is good to see and good to hear. But the one thing I can remember is when we started getting involved in sports, and you know what, I'm going to just keep reminiscing here. I saw last night the New England Patriots gave out the Ron Burton Award. For the person involved in community service. That gentleman, with Pete Kispert, meant so much to my life because we were in sports and we believed in so much we were doing that we participated in this group called the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Years ago, we used to go to camps all over the country for young black kids to go participate, get out of the city, stay out of trouble, but have a good time. I remember one of the basketball practices we had, and Pete Kispert had me had me doing some drills, and I remember, and I want all you young people to realize, he made me start using my left hand when I was playing basketball, and I got really upset. Left hand? Why do I need to know how to use my left hand in basketball? I'll never use it. I'm a righty. Let me tell you something. If you don't have a left hand in basketball, your game is limited. And if you play against some real talent like them LaDonna Dares of the world that won state championships year after year after year, and Kyle Hobbs and all those fellas, or you'll realize why you need a left hand, because the game becomes much deeper when you're athletically inclined and you're a thinker on the court. But this gentleman basically gave me a left hand. My freshman year of high school, I didn't even try out for the ball team. I didn't have enough confidence. That summer, we used to have winter leagues in Boston, tons of them that existed. Not AAU, but local neighborhood leagues that were very competitive. And in this league, I decided this one year, I always played on a team called Bardstown Affairs. Shout out to Joe Nakunta. Joe Nakunta, you know, it's funny. Years ago, we used to think that, I thought coaches got paid to do what they were doing for us. No, they were all volunteers. Do you hear that, people? Volunteers. All right, we need more of them out there. But I decided not to play on this team. I played on the worst team that I could find in that league that year, so that way I would be the star of that team and all the pressure would be on me. I ended up playing Joe Nakunta and my boys that normally win the championship in the semifinals, and we ended up beating them in the semifinals, one of the biggest games of my career, and I think I won the game with a left-hand layup, folks, a left-hand layup. Then I went on to high school the following year. Had a little blessing. A gentleman by the name of Kenny Kincaid actually left. I'm throwing names out here to see what you Boston people know. He ended up leaving the city and went to Atlanta. So I was in the warm-up lines, and I was one of the few people that could use his left hand. And I'm like, wow, the coach was impressed. Players were impressed. I think I made the team because I was one of the few that could make a left-hand layup. I ended up starting, play JV for the first 4 games. I got moved up to varsity, and then I played varsity ever since. Having the ability that I had in my senior year where I scored quite a few points, I ended up getting a scholarship to college and had the opportunity to play, and all of that happened. And when, once I got a scholarship, then I got a college degree. I got all of this stuff based on this gentleman, white gentleman, Pete Kispert, showing me the fundamentals of the game, which then gave me a college degree, which gave me a career. Pete, I want to thank you, brother. I want to thank you for what you've done. And this goes back to, should we feel good about whites wanting to embrace our culture? Absolutely, we should. Any and everything that they want to take from what we're doing, they should take it. The clothes, the hairstyle. That's right, I see it. I'm seeing white folks wearing cornrows. It really looks good. It really fascinates me when I see white folks with dreads. They have dreads in their hair. I have to stop the car, jump out, and tell them how much I love their dreads. That's right. You don't see. When would you see something like that back in the day? That means that folks are starting to listen and to embrace what we're doing. But let's go back into what I was talking about protests. I was sitting with my girlfriend the other day, and they were showing protests after protests and after protests and after protests and after protests. And I said to myself, we were talking, are these protests doing anything? I know they're causing some problems in certain areas, but what do we really think about them? Initially, I said to myself, you know what? Nah, I'm tired of these protests. Protests are not doing anything that we need to get done. There's no agenda here. People are just looting and doing all these other things. But then I had to look myself in the mirror and pretty much almost smack myself in the face, because if Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King heard me say that protests did not work, do you know what I'd be downplaying everything that Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and all these people were doing during that period of time? Absolutely. I totally believe that protests are very important for what we're doing, but we can't get out of control. And when we think back in the 60s, when protests were occurring, there was an agenda. There were leadership in place that said, well, we're protesting because we want the right to vote. All right, we're protesting for this reason, for women's rights. Why are we protesting, folks? What are we asking for here? What do we want more from government, or what do we want more from ourselves? You know, that's the thing that I think about. And when I think about protests and all of these things going on, you know, and I say to myself, what should we do to develop growth in our community? The first thing that I'm going to say to folks that should be on our agenda, number one, priority, champion cause. We need to invest in the black woman. We need to invest in the black woman, folks. That is right. They have always been the foundation of our families, of our communities, of our societies, of the world. But why don't we love them back? Why aren't we giving them what they have deserved for so many years? I will vote for a woman. I'm not going to say just because she's a woman, but I definitely want to make sure that we stop paying attention to the women in our community and what they are doing. All right, we have got to start supporting them in our communities. They are out here working hard. They have never had that fair playing field. So you know what? Let's just say, men, it's their turn. It's their turn. That's right. Everyone gets their turn. It's like waiting to play a basketball game. You got to wait until one team loses and you get to pick your team. That's right. If I had to pick a team, I can think of 3 or 4 or 5 strong black women that would be on my team, advising me, moving me forward, just keeping me where I need to be to move the agenda forward. Once again, I want to say this is Boston Praise Radio. Radio and television, black news station, the only licensed and the only black-owned and licensed radio station in New England. And Ronnie Bell is the number one liked personality. He's the favorite personality. I'm the number 2 guy. I'm the number 2. But he told me just to keep mentioning that this stuff doesn't happen. We can't get this message out there unless we raise money. So, folks, come on down. You need to come down and take a look at this station. You will not believe it, and we're in the process of building a television production studio. That's right. And everyone's going to come running once they see how fly it is. I recommend you get on board nice and early. All right, because when the time slots get filled up, you're not going to have a chance to get involved here, because we're doing some fly stuff down here. Reverend Wall, and of course, I have to mention the First Lady Karen Wall, and I always have to mention them. I'm scared of First Ladies, folks. I've told you that before. They petrify me just to look at me, because I know they don't play. But let's start opening up our doors, opening up our hearts, opening up our agendas to anybody that wants to help us, help support what we're doing. And it's not always, we got to wonder, what are they here for? Should we be able to have an all-black agenda? Yes, we should. Is it reality? No. We need to bring allies in. We need to figure out how to move this base along. Once again, I talked about making an investment in women. You know what? The other place I'd like to see us make an investment too is in the arts community. It may sound corny, and maybe I'm promoting this piece because I'm a writer. I love to write. I've written 7 movie scripts. I just wrote a new script during the COVID called South End of Southie, about 2 gangster families, one gangster family out of South Boston, and another gangster family that are from North Carolina that migrated to the North. And they're a gangster, and how these 2 groups in 1974, during the height of busing and desegregation of schools, could actually get together and they're involved in illegal tobacco sales and moonshine, something a little different. But we have to give our young people, and I don't want to sound corny, all right, the young people. No. We've got to give young people the opportunity to develop growth. Not every kid plays basketball, all right? It was funny. I was watching a movie the other day. I can't remember the name of the movie. Pineapple Express, and the guy was inside the house. He was bouncing the ball, and he said, "I'm trying to get a scholarship." A white guy trying to get a scholarship. It was kind of a racial joke, but it was kind of funny. But you know what? You got to take this serious. For me, I was able to get through college because of a scholarship. But we have got to be serious about what we're doing here, folks. All right, the arts community. We have writers, we have musicians, we have producers. All of these young folks, painters, production workers, all of these young people that are looking for an opportunity, that have a creative talent, that don't have a place where they can do anything. They don't have any, I'm not going to say a place where they can't do anything, but we need more adults to engage and to put some investment into that community. Musicians too. Let's not forget our musicians. I remember when I was a young person, is he on the line? Okay, Tree, if you want to reach us, brother, call into the station, all right? Call in for us, 617-282-0685, 617-282-7794, 617-265-2679. Give us a call. But yeah, back to it. I remember years ago, my grandmother, I loved playing the drums. I could play anything I could hear on the drums, but then they wanted me to start learning how to read music. Here we go again. Reminding me about using my left hand in basketball. Why do I need to learn how to read music? I just want to play. And it kind of steered me away from being a musician. But if you really pay attention, folks, and you hear how somebody makes music, how a song comes together, and I mean 5 or 6 different instruments playing different beats, coming together to make one song. See if you can sit down and listen to a band playing, and see if you can isolate that one instrument, only the drums. Let's see if you could just hear just the drummer playing, or just the trumpet player, or just the guitarist, the lead guitarist, or the bass. Listen to it. You'll see how the beats are different, but how it comes together to make life. All right, that's life. What are we giving? What are we saying to our young people and to older folks? If we don't create life, if we don't create opportunities for their God-given talents to be on display, we have to figure out ways to do that. One of the other things I'm gonna transition into education here. One of the investments that we have to make, we need to invest in our talented kids academically. All right, we have so many young people. I'm going to focus on black people right now. We have so many young black people that are so talented. They are so bright. But what are we doing to create those other opportunities for those young people to move on to the next level academically? People, I think when we look at some of the good kids that are doing well academically, we start to say, oh, they're all right. They're doing fine. They don't need anything. They don't need any resources. No, they need that same push. They're from the same urban communities that we're all from, where we're all dealing with the same issues, the same problems. There's good things and bad, but we've got to make sure those kids that are academically bright, we create safe environments for them. Book clubs. That's right. The more you read, the smarter you're going to be. Your vocabulary is going to be better. We have to create environments for our young black, and if I had to be specific, for our young black girls. All right, we have to create stuff, create programs, create funding, create initiatives, and we need. And I'm going to tell you, I did a program years ago called Professional Women and Girls of Today and the Future. And once these professional women, and all we did was pair up a young girl with the professional woman in the career that they wanted to be in the future. We had people programmed with Carol Bowling Folk, with Judge Sidney Hanlon. We had elected officials. We had everybody, girls paired up with Gloria Fox. You name it. Those girls had such an experience. It was wonderful to see just how motivated they were. And then how their relationships continued on after the summer program. It just became something special to see that what was happening. And the reason why I realized that it was so special is because women started to run this program. They basically, even though I got a woman's name, my name's Tracy, I figured I could stay in the group. But, they booted me to the side, and the women just took over. And I mean, this program excelled. It was wonderful for girls. When I left the city, it didn't continue. Some other folks did some other wonderful things as well. But we have to figure out ways to be supportive of those kids in our academic environments, which makes me transition to school time in September. We are back to school time in September. We are back in a much different phase. There's no playbook for what we're experiencing right now. This COVID thing has hit us, and now we're sending kids back to school online. Woo! How is that going to work? I'm curious. When I listened to what school officials were saying in the past, I heard them say that, a third of the students that were online in March, when COVID first hit, and Mayor Marty Walsh made the decision to keep kids home and keep people safe, the best decision I've seen in a long time. It saved a lot of lives. 1/3 of the students signed on every day to learn. That's that core group of kids, I tell you, that are bright, talented, and they get their laughter, they get their joy from learning, from reading, from studying, from writing. My thing was shooting a hoop. That's where I got my most joy. Then you had 1/3 of the students that signed on sometime. They maybe Monday or Wednesday I'll check in, but Thursday, Friday I ain't doing that. I'm not doing that. And then you have that other 1/3 of students that just said, you know what, it's March, but it's my summer vacation. I'm checking out. I'm not doing anything else in school this term or the rest of the school year. Oh my goodness. What is that going to do to a population of folks that need education more than anything you could ever imagine? Well, not more than God, but this is number 2. We need to be educated. All right. Right now we have a new superintendent. All right. That's taking a lot of flack for nothing. Give this woman a chance to put her agenda in place. Come on, folks. We have a whole new group of folks that are in the school department. Now, let me tell you something. I don't know most of these folks either. But the folks that I have met, Charles Granson and some of these they are some bright black folks, talented. And you have to be bright to be in the school department and you got dreads, all right? Because that just don't mix, all right? Dreads and being a teacher in the class. No, but that would not happen. And any other time, protests have helped. But this is a change when you start to see that black people can express themselves culturally or any way that they like, and they're accepted by what they know, by their knowledge base. And Charles, I want to give you a shout out for all the wonderful work that you do out there, Janelle Ridley, and the bright talent that she brings. We have to start engaging and figuring out what we're going to do for this population online. Now, for me, I can maneuver my way around online and do the things I need to do with a computer. I'm not the best, but you know what? I'm willing to give any amount of my time to support children in the communities. And let me be clear, when I say children, I'm not just talking about black children. I'm talking about white children in the urban community. I'm talking about Latino children in the urban community. I'm talking about all of our children. All right? There's nothing. I'm gonna tell you one of the best things I've seen in a long time. I may have mentioned this before. I go get my frozen yogurt. That's right. I can't eat Brigham's ice cream anymore. No one lets me bring it in the house. Whatever all that means. Fat out, but I just got to be chubby, I guess. But I started eating frozen yogurt. So I'm in South Boston. So while I'm waiting for my yogurt to come, I step outside the door, and what do I see come walking down the street? A 16, 17-year-old black girl, a 16, 17-year-old white girl, and a 16 to 17-year-old Latino girl in South Boston. All right, and I talk about times when I couldn't go into South Boston. I watched them walking down the street together. Do you know how wonderful that looked? I mean, my heart felt so good that children of that age and of different cultures could be chilling together. And once again, I'm going to flip it and go back to hip-hop, because I bet you they all listen to hip-hop. I drove by a group of girls yesterday in Milton after I visited my boy, and what is there's a record by one of them girls. I can't remember the name, how it goes, but the beat was pumping. So I saw this group, about 8 or 9 girls. I drove by them slowly, and I turned the radio up real loud. They heard the song, and they started. It was my type. That's my type. I don't know the words. I just make up my own thing. I turned the music up and drove by them. All of the girls, and started dancing. And they were black and white children. All right, folks, what I'm saying to you is open your eyes to what are opening the hearts of our children here. It ain't always about our agenda. We got to obviously guide them correctly. And you know what? And I don't want a blemish to be on my folks from Southie. There's a lot of good people in Southie. Back in my day, when all that busing was going on, it's funny because some of the people that were out there then, I know now, and those are good white folks. All right, I know some white folks that did Helen Alex out in South Boston that opened the doors for black children and gang members when no one else would help us in the community. All right, I know some good folks from all neighborhoods, so let's just not put that blemish. But what I'm saying is, around this education, folks, I don't care if you have children or not. I don't care. You've got to get involved. We've got to figure out how to make sure our children don't step back instead of moving forward. This is a whole new, different look. All right, and I am going to say this. You can't save everybody out there. All right, folks got to want it themselves. You can't save everybody, but we can get out there and give these kids a better opportunity of what's about to happen, but we have to get engaged. Black folks, white folks, millennials, I don't care what it is. I get tired of hearing about millennials and this group and that group. We are all folks together. And like I said, I don't want to seem corny. We're all from the human race. Yeah, I'm tired of that old corny line, but black and white folks, come on. We have worked together for a lot of years. There's been a number of folks that have worked against us, trying not to see us come together. With the protests, with everything that's going on, with your belief in God, what would you say to him? What would you say to Jesus? What would we do to Satan? What are we going to do, everybody? We got to bring this together around education. If we don't educate ourselves and each other, we're never going to move any further. All right, we're never going to move any further. And when I think about issues around race, and I'm talking about education, one of the biggest things that's occurring in Boston, I don't know if people realize it, but the New England Patriots have a black quarterback. All right, when have you ever seen that? And people wanted to call, when Bill Belichick, he makes a decision to cut this person. Oh, he's only cutting the black players. Oh, no, Bill Belichick will cut anybody that doesn't fit the system. All right, but Cam is now our quarterback. Folks, how are you feeling about that? One of the things that when I think about what I may have said to God or to Jesus, I'm like, could you please make sure my grandfather saw that the Patriots won a Super Bowl? Not just one, but 6 of them. Can you please make sure that he knows that we got 6 of them? I would have loved for him to be alive to see that day and to see this day. Hard-working, blue-collar man that did everything for his family. And what do we have now in Boston? A black quarterback. Folks, that is major for a city that people considered one of the most racist cities in the country. Now, not to mention, the Celtics drafted the first black player ever in the NBA. All right, I want to say the Bruins drafted the first black player in the NHL. All right, so I don't know what you all are talking about. The Red Sox, I love them. I don't know what kudos I can give them, but they do. They're out there trying as well. But come on, folks, it's a new day and era. Let's embrace this. Tom Terrific. Yes, I am going to cry because I love Tom Terrific. And you know what? Let me just one thing I have to say too while I'm talking trash here. I want to give a shout out to my best friend Thomas Patterson. His daughter Tiara just had a baby girl, beautiful baby girl. But I'm confused, folks. I'm very confused, and let me tell you why. She decided to name this beautiful baby Peyton. Do people know what the name Peyton means to a New England Patriot fan? Do we remember the name Peyton Manning? I told her, well, if the first name's Peyton, the middle name has to be Tom Brady. Peyton Tom Brady Patterson. That would make everybody happy. But that just shows, it just kind of explains to folks where we've been in our thinking here in Boston for oh so long. I want you to embrace what's happening right now. I don't know how much longer we're going to see anything happening in the NFL. With COVID going on, I just don't understand how we're going to have sports the way we used to. Remember now, your children that idolize some of these sports people and some of these players and figures, remember now, make a shift now. Have them start thinking about, what's that woman's name? Let me think. She's running for vice president. What is this black woman's? Oh, Kamala Harris. Is that her name? I believe so. Yes, it is. Kamala Harris. I'm back to that black woman thing, folks. Yes, I is. I'm back to the black woman thing. How did you feel when Biden announced that? My brothers, it not quite as good as winning the Super Bowl, but it felt really, really, really good to see that black woman up there. I had the honor and privilege of meeting her when she was the district attorney in San Francisco. I was doing quite a bit of consulting work. Just a little history. Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, then was the mayor of San Francisco. He was the first contract that I worked under. I worked under the Haas Foundation, which is Levi Strauss money, and across the bridge in Oakland, Ron Dellums. He was a congressman for many years, became the mayor of Oakland, another civil rights activist. I had a chance to sit down and talk with those folks, but it just seemed inevitable that a woman like Kamala Harris would be selected. Oh, yeah, I think she went from the DA to Attorney General, from Attorney General to Senator. But the thing about that black woman, she is bright. She is super bright. Folks, when you get that type of talent, when you have that type of talent in your family, you better nurture that. The way you would nurture an athlete and you feed them correctly, you make them go out and do drills. That's right. Make your child read every single day. Make them read every day to get that talent. Because when you heard about, Ronnie Bell, what did you think about Kamala Harris when they selected her, Ron Bell, as the vice presidential candidate? What did you think of that, Ron? Ron just said to me, what's that? I'm talking about Kamala Harris, Ron. What did you think about her when they selected her? You know, some people have, excuse me? Okay. I'm sorry, folks. I'm sorry. I'm all over the place here. But, do we have a caller on the line? She hung up. I'm sorry, honey. I'm sorry. I was trying to get to you. My apologies. If you want to call back, and we'll get you right on the air. I know for myself, there's some black folks that are happy, some are not. I've even heard folks criticize her for being married to a white gentleman. Some of the things that I don't understand where opinions are coming. Or I hit a nerve because Ron Bell came back to the air. He came back. He got a new microphone and everything. He had to talk about how he feels. And this whole conversation was around supporting the black woman, Ron. Supporting the black woman and making sure. I'm about to shut up because Ron looks like he is steaming. He's got smoke coming out of his forehead. He's got something to say. We got to get him plugged in. Ron, are you on there? Are you over there, Ron?
Yeah, I am, Tracy.
Go ahead, Ron. You definitely got something to say.
Yeah, just for Kamala Harris, as it relates to Kamala Harris, I think that the sister, I'm happy for her. I'm happy that Biden chose a black woman, number one, and hopefully she remains and stays in her roots of being black. Because all this black Indian, I understand the diversity and all that. I never heard of it, like black Indian, black. We all Cherokee or something, right? But so this maintain your blackness, it wasn't my first choice. Actually, Susan Rice was my first choice.
Okay.
I think
another strong black woman.
Strong black woman. So anything besides what's in there now. So that's where I'm at. I think.
Excuse me. You don't like Donald Trump?
I said anything that's in there now. I don't even mention their names. Like yesterday when we were so eloquently and so aggressively getting out the vote in Mattapan, Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, Milton, Randolph, and all them places, what we were saying, get him out. And the him is not just one person.
Okay.
It's a whole bunch of them.
Sure.
So as we go into this next presidential general election, November 3rd, get them out.
Sure.
So that's how you.
And let me say this to you, Ron.
Yes, sir.
I know a lot of people won't admit this, right? But I went through this, and this is something that comes up in black folks' minds when things happen. When they announced her, I don't know why, but I said to myself, and it doesn't bother me, but I said to myself, is she married? I wonder if she's married to a black man or a white man.
Well,
does that have is that a factor for black folks when choosing a candidate? Or when choosing to support somebody in life?
Yeah, Susan Rice, I understand, is married to a white man too. You can love anyone you want. That's where I'm at. As long as your policies, it's going to help help the liberation and the uplifting of black people. Sure, that's fine with me. You can be a white man, you could be a white woman, you could be Latino, you could be whatever. As long as you help black people, because we always come up short. We lead in every gap there is: education, this gap, that disparities. So therefore, I think that even though I didn't support her, Elizabeth Warren had the best policy as it relates to black people. Susan Rice was definitely the person that I would have liked. Of course, as president, I wanted Deval Patrick. There
you go.
So therefore, because we got to have some access, and we get access, black folks in Boston gonna do all right. Because I'm gonna make sure of that, right? So going back to your question, Tracy, like Kamala Harris, Biden, this is what we have. Take one for the team.
Sure. It's something. It was funny after I asked that question and I saw that she was married to a white gentleman. It was like, why did I even ask myself that? I'm just curious. A lot of people, a lot of folks want to feel like you're not completely a black woman if you're married to a white man, which makes no sense to me.
Well, the question is that you marry who you want, you love who you want. But even in this moment with this racial tension, I'm curious, how does that feel? And, I wouldn't marry a white woman right now, just me personally, because I know that back in the day that you be with a white girl, man, you get in trouble. You can get killed.
Yeah.
Times
have changed. Times have changed since the 70s, right? No more steel cars either. No more steel cars.
It depends. It depends on who it is. But anyway, so like I said, at first I was like that too, and I said, well,
But let me ask you a question though. Yeah. Doesn't that create a greater challenge for that couple? And you got to give them credit for being brave enough to try.
Oh, yeah, courageous.
Hold on, and let's take it to another level. Now we know that they're going to have children that are going to be mixed.
Yeah.
And their children are going to be considered black children.
Black children.
All right. And all of the issues they have to go through in order to deal with that.
Yeah, but can I just say one thing?
Absolutely, Ron.
As a black man, and when I tell my white friends, my Latino friends, my Asian friends, you come from me. I cannot possibly. How can a beautiful black Mandingo warrior, the next Black Panther, come from a white man? God bless you, man. Have a smile upon
Thank you for Thank you for coming on. Listen, folks, today what we try to do is just talk about things. I didn't even get through half my list because I just rambled, but I had a good time. I want you all to all pray for my buddies who are suffering from cancer right now, and I'm going through some times. But just remember, you just heard from your favorite radio host, Ron Bell, and I'm your second favorite radio host, Traci Lithcutt, Boston Praise Radio and Television, black-owned and licensed, the only one in New England. Don't forget that. And right now, Ron would choke me up if I didn't say we need money down here, folks. All right, and folks, you all got to come down here and start supporting black businesses. I don't care, restaurants, whatever. But this is the only thing we have like this. Reverend Wall and Karen Wall spent 10 years putting this together. All right, come on down here and put some money into what we're doing. I'm tired of all the talk and all of this other stuff.
App.
Put some action into what we're doing here.
Cash App, the Cash Sim. BPR TV, or you go to the website www.bostonpraiseradiotv.co. No donation too small, no donation too big. Just give something to show us you're with us. I want to hear Traci continuously be on Boston Black News. That's my brother. God bless y'all.
Thank you very much, and have a wonderful weekend, and enjoy yourself. Go Black folks.
I'm the best of both worlds.